Has your computer ever stopped working randomly or refused to turn on? Don't do like this guy did and destroy it. Instead, replace the power supply unit. In this video, Mr. Westfall is going to show you how to remove a faulty power supply unit and replace it with a brand new one. Here's your host, Mr. Westfall.
So the first thing you want to do is locate the power supply. And if I look at the back panel of the computer, the power supply is right here. Obviously, you want to make sure that the computer is unplugged. And you also want to press the power button in for 3 to 5 seconds to discharge any capacitors. You will need a basic toolkit for this lab, so grab that. And the tools that are needed for it are the ESD wristband, of course, to protect yourself from electrostatic discharge, handy-dandy screwdriver, and your bit set. And we're specifically going to use the T15 or the Torx size 15 star bit, and that goes into the end of your screwdriver and snaps in because it's magnetic. Pretty cool. So I've laid the computer on its side, and I'm going to remove the 4 screws from the back of the computer that secure the power supply to the case. Using my bit, I remove this screw, this screw, this screw, and this screw. You do not want to remove the smaller Phillips head screws because those actually take this thing apart. We want to simply remove it from the case. We do not want to open it up because it's obviously pretty dangerous. A power supply is referred to as an FRU, or field replaceable unit. To avoid injury or death, you should always replace a faulty power supply instead of attempting to fix it. You always want to make sure you're practicing the proper safety precautions. I've got my wristband on, and that is grounded to the case. Next thing I'm going to do is remove the cover from the case. This one's pretty easy. It's just got a little thumb screw, and this should slide off. Now, by now, you should have removed the 4 screws that attach the power supply to the back. Next thing you want to do is you want to trace the wires from the power supply and see where they lead. So, for example, this one leads into this green thing here called the motherboard. Other wires connect to some of the different components in the system. So you want to remove all of those, okay? Some of them just pull out simply. This one here has a little clip, so you push the clip, and at the same time you kind of wiggle, and it should pop right out. Make sure you're paying very close attention to where each one of these connectors plugs into. Once you've removed the screws and disconnected all the wires, the power supply should just slide out with ease. Yay! Your lab is going to require you to sketch the power supply, and you're also going to have to identify each of these connectors and where those connectors plugged into in the computer. When you've answered all the questions on your lab sheet, you want to reinstall the power supply. Before you turn your lab in, I'm going to have to sign off on it, so make sure that every single component gets plugged back in. Lastly, you want to reinstall the 4 screws that attach the power supply to the system unit. Before leaving your lab, make sure you put all your tools away and you put the cover back on the case. Lastly, you want to make sure it still works. Great job.